I think the low cost base, when you compare IT costs around the world, Uzbekistan is probably one of the lowest by a long way. So there's room to increase the cost and still be very, very competitive. And that'll be attractive to IT investors who are looking at a longer term investment. There's two things. There's the technical piece of actual technical knowledge in the IT space, but I think there's also the language plays a big factor. I mean, there's a lot of English speakers, Korean, German. That makes Uzbekistan very attractive. The incentives are good, but I think beyond the incentives, I don't think companies are coming here for the incentives. I think they're coming for things like the GSP plus status that Uzbekistan has, which essentially allows you to trade with European Union countries as practically an EU member. I think that, along with the availability of talent, I think the ease of onboarding, by that I mean entities like IT Park helping companies register and establish operations quickly. That's very valuable. Once a company decides they want to invest, the ability to onboard and get up and be operational is really important. So I think that service and that function that IT Park provide is very, very important. But I think the other things along with the incentives, there's not one single element that companies are looking at. They're looking at an ecosystem. And I think what the government has done with the investment law, with incentives, with moving towards WTO status, all of these things lead to a better ecosystem and environment. So they all contribute to investment attraction and why companies will set up here. So the ecosystem in allowing them to operate, and again, you're helping that through IT Park with being able to onboard. I mean, that's critically important. How you set up a company, establish licensing, office space, hiring, they're all important factors. If that didn't exist, it'd be much, much harder to establish here. Plus the awareness, letting people know that there are 40 million people in Uzbekistan, that 60% of them are under the age of 30, that there's access to a huge market, not only in Uzbekistan, but outside of Uzbekistan. I think you're doing all the right things. You're looking at incentives, you're providing a place for them to land and set up. I think it's more awareness, let people know about Uzbekistan, about the different aspects of the value proposition that the country offers. I don't think people realize, as I said, things like the GSP plus status, the bilateral arrangements you have with other countries. Your president has done a fantastic job of reaching out and connecting with his peer countries and beyond. So I think you're doing all the right things, but it does take a little time. It does take a little time to land these companies. But if I know anything, once people hear about Uzbekistan and start to compare, and I've talked to companies who've compared Uzbekistan to other countries like Poland and Romania and other locations they were thinking of investing in, and Uzbekistan was by far and away ahead in terms of what they perceived. They didn't realize there was so much here. I think the fact that you're creating something where companies can reside in a compliant area, so that you have the right regulations for managing data and that you are on par with other jurisdictions like the European Union, the US. I think that's important. So I think what the Enterprise Uzbekistan will allow you to do is provide an environment, a regulatory environment that allows these companies to actually do more. And the fact that they can do more means they'll invest more. So I think that's probably the big incentive. I think it's changed so much in the last 4 years. It's been incredible in terms of the number of new hotels. There's a the airport has a new piece to it. There's something different every time I come. What's consistent is the enthusiasm of everybody. It doesn't falter. It's continue, 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 and you can feel that when you get off the plane and you talk to people. There's a lot of enthusiasm. There's a lot of optimism, and that goes a long way with investors too. They like an environment where their potential employees are people who are enthusiastic and ready to work. And you get the feeling that that's the case here. I think the fact that Uzbekistan has got a young population, a number of English speakers, that's important. And you have a lot of universities. You have a lot of graduates. So you have a lot of the raw material that investors will be looking for. I think that you will see a dramatic difference to Uzbekistan in the next 10 years. And the drivers for that will be the world has become much smaller, particularly in IT, due to the internet and the globalization that's happening. I think that your young population will allow companies to scale quicker here. So I think, it's quite possible Uzbekistan could be where Ireland is in half the time or more.